Aloha, Lohali signing in with my manga collection video, and I finally get to cover all of my series in one central place. Now this is going to be a little bit of a longer video, but I really want you to enjoy all 417 of 17, that's a terrible number. Sydney, we need to go. Sydney, we need to go. I need to get 3. Man, what am I gonna get? Oh. Whew. All right. Had to run to the store. And it was really close. Almost got locked in. But we came back with 3 manga to give me a round 420. What we ended up having for this December manga haul is Flames of Recca, volume number 2, Ultraman, volume number 1, and Magi, again, volume number 1. We'll dive more into these as the collection video goes on, so grab a snack and let's get started. Before I officially kick off this manga collection, I just want to give a quick dual birthday shout out to my boy Chopper and myself, because we both share December 24th as our birthday. Now, without further ado, let's dive right into the shelf. Now, for those of you who saw the very first manga collection video, you understand that this has not changed because it is still the very first shelf in my collection. The only thing that I can say now is that I legally own volumes 1 through 45, 51 through 55, and 63 without any duplicates or missing volumes. And that makes me super happy because now I'm not accidentally lying to you. This series is about pirates, and if you did not know that, I am horribly disappointed in you, and you need to re-examine your life and understand that the most popular manga of all time is that way for a reason. Now, the next shelf in my collection is again almost an exact repeat of the last manga collection video. However, there are a few differences. For those of you who have not seen the last video, this is basically my Naoki Urasawa shelf. If you take a look over here, you have 20th Century Boys, which is a psychological thriller created by the great Naoki Urasawa, and it involves friendship, connecting through time, and the adventures that one man goes through to really find himself. The manga right next to it is one of the most critically acclaimed psychological thriller manga of all time, and that is Monster, again, by Naoki Urasawa, and this is probably one of my favorite series, and it's also a stunningly beautiful spine set. I mean, if you just take a look, that deep, rich maroon color is something that is different than the usual bright colors or black and whites that a lot of manga spines have, and I'm really excited that SIG brought this to us. Now, the big changes to the shelf are actually right here in the corner. We have Planets, volume number 1 and 2 by Dark Horse. This is a space drama, basically, that involves a man and terrorism. That sounds really weird, but it's actually really dark and really kind of a weird read. I have to be in the right mood to read it, otherwise I set it down and I don't pick it up for a while. And then right next to that is Ultraman's volume number 1 and 2. And this series is something that we talked about in our Super Sentai live stream, and I was lucky enough to find right after that happened. Ultraman is taking place a few years after the initial TV series with the original Ultraman's son, and this is him going up against all of the monsters from the TV show. It's a really beautiful series. However, there is one problem, and I'm actually going to make a video about this. If you take a look right here, just the difference in the paper quality. So while it's not a huge deal to me, it could be for other collectors, but again, it's a fun series that I actually initially read 6 years ago. So this next shelf is actually where my collection, at least orientation, really starts to change from my previous video. If you take a look at the far left, you are going to see that I own Shaman Kings volume 1 through 9. This was an absolutely fun series right up until the very end. Basically about ghosts. It's a shonen battle tournament manga So if you enjoy over-the-top battles with some not bad art, I actually highly recommend it. However, the ending will leave you wanting a little bit, and I have actually touched on that is, I believe, one of the weakest points of shonen manga. Right next to that is another one of my favorite series, and that is Beck, Mongolian Chop Squad. It's all about music. It gets me up in my feels every single time, and I cannot believe that I am lucky enough to own volume number 1, and I would love to collect the whole thing, but I believe that is going to take some time. Now, right next to that, we have My Hero Academia, volumes 1 through 8. And there's not really much that I can say about this other than the fact that, it's one of my girlfriend's favorite series. It's one of the most popular anime currently going on. It's just an all-around good shonen about a young boy, Izuku Midoriya, right there on spine number 1, trying to take the place of spine number 2, All Might, and become the greatest superhero of all time. It is beautifully written, beautifully drawn actually, and these spines are actually really, really colorful, and I do enjoy how they look on my shelf. Directly next to that is the one series that I can look at Jing Raves and say, ha 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 ha, I own something that you don't. And that is Rave Master, volumes 1 through 9, and 11 and 12. If you take a look at the very top, the Tokyo Pop right here changes a little bit of the way through. I don't care as much about those kinds of changes. It just doesn't look quite as neat on your shelf if you are a serious collector. But I believe that this is currently Hiro Mashima's best completed series. However, his newest series, Eden's Zero, which I am reviewing, is also phenomenal, and I highly recommend reading it. But for a quick overview of Rave Master, you have Haru Glory swinging around a sword that has 10 different forms to bring down a demon organization. It's fun, it's dark, and the characters just feel real, and they feel completely rounded. And that's something that you cannot say for Mashima's other work, Fairy Tail, which I do not own a single copy of. And finally on this shelf, we have Bakuman, volumes 1 through 11. It's a great series about manga writing. Like I pointed out in the last video, if you take a look right here, the red line, that does bother me. Again, this isn't so much from a collector standpoint as much as a respect standpoint. I don't know why you put a red line through it. It's just being petty and childish. But this series is written by the same people who have done Hikaru no Go, who will appear on a later shelf. But it's just a great, fun series, and I highly, highly recommend reading it. The manga on this shelf, 2 of them actually hold a very special place. The other one's just kind of a fun read. And you've seen 2 of these, like I said, in my previous collection video. The first one is my first ever completed series in Full Metal Alchemist, volumes number 1 through 27. It is a highly acclaimed anime. It's a highly acclaimed manga for very, very good reason. It's absolutely stunning to look at, and it really makes you question human morality, human philosophy, and what lengths you're actually willing to go through for not just your family, but for the lives of those around you, whether they are good or evil. Just a beautiful series, and I cannot recommend it enough. Now, the other one that you saw last video was Ubelblatt. Again, it's about a weird fairy halfling thing who goes around and gets revenge on those who wronged him. It is a little bit of a weaker battle seinen. While I enjoy it, it is a little bit over the top with some of its nudity and graphic violence, but it's not a terrible read if you are looking for something quick to kind of pound through and just get on with your life. Now, next to that is my Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z collection. For those of you that know me, know that I love Dragon Ball Z a whole heck of a lot, but Dragon Ball, these right here hold a very, very special place in my heart. They were some of the very first manga that I ever read, even before my actual Shonen Jump manga collections. They're just fun, they're big, they're bold, and I really just love the unique way that they read to me.
and that's just something from my childhood. Volumes 4 through 4, 13, and 16 right here hold the exact same information in them as the corresponding ones over here, but it's just that feeling of reminiscence that I get from these original Dragon Ball manga. The other thing that I like to point out is the difference in the Viz logo, and that really just shows you how much they changed through the years. And finally, you can't get away without having some good old Dragon Ball Z on your shelf, especially volume number 11, where Goku goes Super Saiyan for the first time. And that thump that you might have just heard was another one of my gigantic volumes falling over. The very first manga on this shelf, Kakaishi by Yellow Tanabe. The very first half of the series is brilliant. It's actually so much fun. It doesn't drag on, and it just feels like a good old-fashioned ghost battle shonen. However, I was disappointed by the second half. The spines aren't all that unique, and the change in publisher topping does throw me off a little bit, but it's not the biggest deal. Smokey says hello for this one, by the way, everybody. He's curious about some of these manga as well. Right next to that, you can see Beat the Vandalbuster, volumes 1 through 3. I officially read this series when I was about 10, and I believe the only English translations, it's either 1 through 12 or 1 through 14. Jing Graves can tell you a little bit more, but it's about a kid who is able to bring out basically buster weapons and utilize them in very unique ways, and he inherited them from a group of already strong fighters. Right next to that is Siren. I actually think that Siren is a little bit underrated when it comes to the shonen battle genre. We did make a joke because we found it on one of the top 10 psychological manga lists. It's not a psychological manga to me by any means. The series does get a little bit convoluted towards the end, which does make it a little bit weaker. But if you're just looking for something fun to read, again, high praise. Next to that is Case Closed, one of the longer running manga currently in commission right now about a teenage detective who gets turned into a small child. I would actually spend my days at Barnes & Noble sitting in the aisles reading this manga. It was a lot of fun, and I wish I owned a few more of them, but as I got older, the series just doesn't hold the same shine that it used to. But from what I hear, it is still really, really good and very widely held as a decent manga still. Right next to that is another completed series, and that is Chrono Crusade volumes 1 through 8. This kind of takes on some weird Catholic ideas and incorporates that with fighting demons. Strange manga. It's not anything like Chrono Trigger, but it is an interesting read. The ending is a little bit tear-jerking, if I do say so myself. Left me with a bit of a tear in my eye. If you have a few spare dollars, this is actually a pretty cheap series to find, and if you just want to read some fun battle, go ahead and pick this one up. Next is Reborn. This thing I do not believe is fully translated into English, but I found volumes 1 through 6 almost entirely in the clearance section, so I got them all for almost $12. They're a fun read, it's a fun series, only weakened by the absolute final chapter. That's it. It's a battle shonen, it uses a lot of tournament-style arcs, time travel, and it's just a lot of fun, and it's about the main character, Suna, trying to become a better, more confident person. Next to that is D. Grayman, which is that series right there. And that series is all about Alan, the main character on the first spine, battling demons called Akuma and trying to reclaim souls. Finally is Master Keaton. I know I moved it down from the Naoki shelf, but it did not fit with the scheme up there at the moment in time. It may eventually go back up, but I also haven't picked it up since August, so I'm a little bit lacking. I made it about halfway through and still haven't gotten back into it. I apologize, everyone. I failed you as a collector. Right here is my biggest regret as a collector. I spent about $50, maybe $60, to get the entire Rurouni Kenshin series, and the first manga itself put me to sleep with how boring it was. I could not get into it, and I did enjoy his other series, but this just did not hold the same appeal to me. There's not much that I can say. I can't even really comment on how good the story was because the first volume just didn't capture me. Next to that is Battle Royale. It's an okay series. The first read-through of it is great. Every subsequent read-through after that does pose a little bit of a difficulty for me. Really good, really bloody, and basically this is what the Hunger Games copied. Not a bad series, really bloody, really dark, and if you like that kind of stuff, I think you'll highly appreciate it. Next to that is, in my opinion, Kubo Tite's best series, Zombie Powder. That is the entire collection right there, volumes 1 through 4. At volume number 4, it said to be continued, and there was supposed to be a time skip with some training, but that never happened because Kubo never actually completed the series. While that is sad, I can appreciate it because, as I always say, he was at a dark point in his life, and I'd rather him be happy than write a manga just for me. Gintama is next, one of the greatest comedy manga of all time, and this one is in pristine condition. And finally on this shelf is another completed series in Nora. I finally own volume 9. That took me so long to get, I cannot even express how happy I was to complete the series. This is all about the adventures of Cerebrus and his human master taking on the hordes of demons who are wanting to take over the world. Fun series, pretty quick to read, and if you get the chance and you can pick it up for cheap, I'd say anywhere for $3 to $4 a manga, it wouldn't be bad to have in your collection. The spines also look really nice, really uniform, and that's not something that you can say for every single series. For the first shelf of the second bookcase, I'm going to start going right to left just for this one because I feel like it'll be fun and because I really want to point out this interesting series, Rebirth. This is actually the complete series. It's about a vampire who tries to get revenge on the light for killing him. And it's really weird. It introduces kind of, I don't want to say an anti-hero, but he's just kind of a rogue who's doing what he wants. So far I've made it to volume number 4, but this was a great purchase and probably one of my bigger savings moments. I got each of these for basically $1.05. The other interesting thing about this series is if you take a look at volume number 22, the actual last one in the series itself, it is almost twice the size of the other manga, and apparently they did that just to get it out. It's a lot of fun to read, and if you get the chance to pick it up on a deal, go right ahead. I recommend it, and I cannot wait till I get to the very end. Right on the left-hand side of that, we have Black Cat. It is about a sweeper, not my cat Smokey. This sweeper is basically a bounty hunter out to just live his life, have freedom, and really enjoy the time that he has on this earth. However, an evil organization, not an eagle organization, is after him and they want to get revenge on him for basically just doing what he does best. It's a fun series, quick to read, and again, as with most of my manga, I cannot recommend it enough. And right next to that is probably one of the biggest surprises in my collection, and that is Ranma Half. It is by the same person who created Inuyasha. It is a comedy gag romance. It's the weirdest descriptor ever, but I absolutely love this series. It's lighthearted, it's fun, and it's about a boy who, when he gets water of a certain temperature poured on him, he transforms into the opposite gender. It's full of hijinks, it's full of ridiculousness, and it's full of kung fu. If you get the chance to give it a read, do it. On this shelf are a few manga that my girlfriend thoroughly enjoys. The first of those being Tokyo Ghoul. She really enjoys those dark, bloody series, and it terrifies me to no end. Tokyo Ghoul is basically, there are man-eating demon things roaming around the streets of Tokyo, and our main character is attacked by one. How does the story end? Where does it go? I don't know. But pretty good, pretty violent, and if you're into that kind of stuff, I cannot recommend it enough. Now, directly next to that is Vagabond by Takehiko Inoue, and it is widely regarded as one of the most beautiful and well-written series in all of manga, no matter the genre. It is basically the story of Musashi, one of the greatest swordsmen of all time, and his rise from basically being a peasant all the way to being the sword god. Great read, and I am so sad that I only own volumes 1 and 2 as of right now, but those spines, simple, elegant, and they look really good on a shelf. Next to that is probably one of my favorite spine designs, just simplicity, beauty, and that is Dead Man Wonderland. They cycle through white and black all through the series, and it's just beautiful to have on your shelf, and I cannot say enough good things about this series either. It's about a boy who's blamed for the death of his entire class, and he gets sent to an amusement park where they punish criminals on death row. It's bloody, it's gory, it's over the top, and the ending could leave you in your feels. Right next to that, we have Claymore, and Claymore it's a weird series. The author's other work that I know off the top of my head is Angel Densetsu, which is a very weirdly drawn series, and he takes that same style and kind of applies it here. There aren't very many noses, so they kind of remind me of Krillin from Dragon Ball Z. But it is about girls carrying gigantic swords that are meant to be swung around with 2 hands, chasing after yokai, or demon in the land. And the reason why they're able to do that is because they have part of that demon inside themselves. Like I said, overall the series is fun to read. Ending leaves me a little bit lacking, but I wouldn't say no to the entire series. But right next to that, let me adjust the light so you can see it just a little bit better. There we go. Is Eyeshield 21. Not even probably. This is one of my top 2 favorite sports manga of all time, and it is tied with Hajime no Ippo. This puts it in my top 10 manga of all time, and in my top 10 I can't arrange them, don't ask me to. But this is about the story of Senna, a young bullied high school student, and his journey to become basically one of the best running backs in all of high school football. It is beautifully drawn. Murata, who is currently doing One Punch Man, again, brings his A game to this. It's a fun, beautiful series, and it is written by the same guy who's doing Dr. Stone. Same thing as always, only weak part is the very last chapter, and that's because it's not that it's terrible, it just leaves me wanting more. If you want to get a series that just blows your mind, this is the one. It's so fun. I go back and I get excited by each individual game. I get excited by each play. It's such a fun series. Right next to that is Get Backers. Now, I picked the very first volume up in Iowa. I had been eyeballing this in one of the half-price bookstores in Kansas City for a while, but I missed out on my chance to get it. It's a fun series. A little weird. I've only gotten to read volumes 1 and 2. If somebody can let me know more about it and if it's worth it to get the whole series, I would appreciate you very much. Directly next to that is Yakitate Japan. This is one of the best food gag manga of all time, if not the best food manga of all time. It is about a boy who is journeying to become the best bread baker in all of Japan. The anime is pretty fun, but my girlfriend will not let me finish watching it. Darn you, Sydney. Next to that is World Trigger. This has just come off hiatus, which means that if you want to start collecting it again, I would highly, highly recommend it. And it's just a good old-fashioned battle shonen with a very solid power system behind it. There's not much that you can say negative about this series. It's just a good, fun read. Next to that is actually something that is a little almost embarrassing for me, and this is by Nobuhiro Watsuki, the same man who did Rurouni Kenshin, and this, in my opinion, is a much more fun series, at least to me. I'm not saying it's a better series, I'm not saying that, Rurouni Kenshin is inferior, but this series overall was just a quick read, and I need to get my hands on number 8 so it can be complete in my life. It was so much fun, and I cannot wait to finish it, and I also don't want to find it online to read, if you know what I'm talking about. And finally is one of the most underrated shonen manga, and that is Mar, however you want to say it. And this is by Nobuyuki Anzai, and it takes a lot of just American folklore and stories, throws them together, and creates a great battle shonen. This is a fun battle shonen, and I don't want to ruin any of it for you, but it's also one of the original isekai in my opinion. This is the isekai for me that drops you into another world, like an isekai is supposed to do, leaves you with believability, which is what a good isekai is supposed to do, and is just a blast to read. If you have not read Mar, get on it, because it is a beautifully written series, and the drawings are a lot of fun as well. This shelf comprises two very prominent mangakas, along with a few fun series. The first of those being Yoshihiro Togashi, the author of both Hunter x Hunter and Yu Yu Hakusho. I do actually have a preference in these two series because I believe that the writing and artwork in Yu Yu Hakusho is a little bit more fun, fancy, and carefree. But it does suffer again in the later half, like a lot of shonen do. But the very first, it is the quintessential tournament arc. This thing has the dark tournament, and you just see people fight each other just for the heck of it. I mean, I know there's a wish at the end, but it's so much fun. On the other hand, Hunter x Hunter starts off remarkably strong, and it has beautiful artwork. It has phenomenal writing, and the power system in there is probably one of the best of all time, if not the best. It's so well written, so grounded, and the series overall is great. However, in this later half that we are in, Togashi is suffering from too much writing. He's not drawing as much, mainly because his health is ailing. But I only own volumes number 1 through 20 in there because just to me, the series puttered out right after the Chimera Ant arc. And I know that's probably heresy to say, but it's just not something that I'm feeling like reading or collecting right now. The other great author is right over here, the mangaka I should say. You have Yumi Hotta and Togashi Obata. On Hikaru no Go, I own 1 through 5, 9, 10, 12, and 13. And this is a sports manga all about the game of Go. I didn't know that that was a thing when I first started reading it, but it turns out it is insanely popular. And the series is beautifully drawn, beautifully well written, and there's just not enough good things that I can say about this. It's insane. The artwork is stunning. The games feel so real and tense. You know, you are really drawn into this series, and you care about the characters, and each one of them really kind of has this unique look about them. And I think it just comes from the way that they're characterized in their writing. It's overall a great series, and if you get the chance to read a series about a board game, you need to. On the right hand side of that, you have Zatch Bell, about demon children going out and fighting each other to become the Demon King. Straight up, pure action. It's a tournament arc all the way through, if you want to think about it. It's a tournament arc shonen. That's what it is, and it is a blast. I cannot describe how much I love reading the series, and I am super sad I only own volumes number 2 and 4. This is something that I want to get my hands on, and I want to actually own for when I have kids, because the series teaches you about heart, it teaches you about friendship, and it teaches you about emotions and perseverance. Just great. And then right over here we have Initial D volume number 2, another series that I can say that I own that Jean Graves doesn't. It's about street racing, pure and simple. The artwork is classic. It has a live action adaptation, which is ridiculous and over the top. And again, another sports manga. If you couldn't tell, I own a lot of them. Now, right next to that, we have Sayuki, which I have not purchased the first volume of, so I have not gotten to read it yet. It looks beautiful, it looks great, and the reviews on it are stunning. So we'll get into that hopefully later. Next is Toriko, the battle food manga about ripped dudes fighting monsters that are insanely delicious. This series is fun, over the top, and goes into intergalactic planetary mode, basically copying the Beastie Boys, and it's a little strange, but I think that you absolutely need to get this on your shelf because it is stupid and over the top. And finally, we have The Emotional Wrecking House of Bokurano. This is about small children piloting a mech, and it will destroy your feelings in such a dark, depressing way. The final shelf on my bookcases is the Hodgepodge shelf. It is a collection of a lot of things along with some extras that brings my total up to 420, the roundest number there is. So first, on the left-hand side, we have, by Dean Koontz, the Odd Thomas manga series. Haven't read it, bought it for my girlfriend. She said it's not terrible. After that, we have Trigun Maxim, the first gigantic omnibus, followed by number 7 and 8. I really want to get the first Trigun series before I read the Maxim. That way I can fully understand and respect the story. Finally, we have the compilation edition of the Shonen Jump graphic novels. There's like 4 or 5 separate manga in there. It was a great taster, and my cousin actually gave that to me as a gift when we were younger. Then you have Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist. This is probably the Yu-Gi-Oh! That most people are familiar with. There are card games galore, Yu-Gi vs. Kaiba, and I only own the first one because it's a strange series. After that, we have Bleach Volumes 3 and 4. I do want to own this complete series, mainly because it was part of the big 3 and it was a lot of fun. I would also like to get Naruto, just so I can say that I have owned the big 3 and say it with some authority. Right next to that, we have Toaster Cat's basically greatest idea ever of the greatest shonen manga in recent history, in Magi. While I don't disagree that it's fun, I do think that it could use a little bit of work to be number 1. But it is a beautifully spined series. I like it. It's unique. It's purple. It's over the top. It's ridiculous. And I cannot wait to own the next ones. After that, we have Akame ga Kill. And this one is violent, bloody, and so much better than the anime. I recommend it if you get the chance. Hellsing is something that I haven't gotten to read yet. I know I should. It's about vampires. It's one of the classic manga. It's one of the classic anime. And again, I'm always disappointed in myself when I own something and I haven't gotten the chance to read it yet. I'm not as good of a man as Jing Graves, or as Toaster, or as a Maskio J. I think that I still need a little bit of work on my series reading. Next to that is another series that I went out to purchase, along with volume number 1 of Ultraman, volume number 1 of Magi, and this is how I completed my 420, so I had a nice round number instead of 417. Flames of Recca is by the same author as Mare/Mar. I want to get volume number 1 and read it because I've heard it's just a blast. It's long, it's violent, it's great, it's an action shonen to its core, and I am super pumped to get at it. Basilisk is about ninjas. It's dark, it's adult, and if you get the chance, it's basically Romeo and Juliet meet ninjas. Next, we have what is one of the more popular sports shonen out there, and that is Yowamushi Pedal. It has a phenomenal anime. I've only made it to like 230, I believe, chapters when I was reading Yowamushi Pedal. It did get a little repetitive after a while, and some of the characters did blend together, but they all have kind of a unique style, but their personalities could use a little bit of a standing out. After that, we have my only Tezuka series in Dororo. I can never say this name, so somebody pronounce it for me in your head. Dororo. It's about a person who I think is a doll. It's weird. I picked it up just because I wanted to have a Tezuka series on my shelf. After that, we have one of the Disney special editions, and this is The Nightmare Before Christmas. Got it for my girlfriend. I'm glad that I did. Next is the final series in any collection, and that is Akira. I only own volumes 1, 2, and 3 by Kodansha. They're huge, and they are basically some of the beefiest, most well-constructed manga in my collection. The pages are tough, the spines are even tougher, and it is a classic series about Tokyo, about human nature, and it's a great read. And finally, over here we have all my extras. These are the shame of any collector, and this is why you keep a list of what you own with you at all points in time.
A little dry, but not bad. Welcome back. I really hope you enjoyed this video. It took a lot of time, and I'm really impressed with how much my collection has grown in the past 6 months alone. Without the wonderful help of this community and my loving, supportive girlfriend, none of this would be possible. I'm gonna make another updated video in a year, so check back then for the greatest manga collection in the United States. Don't forget to check the side over there for my latest Monday video, along with a special video that YouTube cooked up for you. So for all of you subscribers new and old, welcome and welcome back. It's your boy Lohali, signing out.